All right, hello and welcome. Very nice to have you guys all here. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started here. The webinar will be 60 minutes. That'll be the content portion of it. We do have a question and answer portion afterwards, so if anyone has time and has some questions, more than happy to answer. The certificate for the continuing education credits will be available at the end of that 60 minutes. You'll be able to download it right from here. We also have a couple really helpful handouts for you that should be pretty cool. So you'll get those during the webinar as well, and you just have to click and download them. You'll see them show up into your control panel there. So let's go ahead and get started. All righty. Karen, are you here? I want to make sure that we've got all of our presenters. There you are.
I am. Hi, Jared.
Hi. So here, I'm Jared Hall. I'm the CEO and founder of IntelliKids. Karen is our director of the IntelliKids Systems Academy, which is what's presenting the material for you today. Just a little bit before we get into this, I want to kind of tell you, what is IntelliKids Systems? Who are we, and what we do? IntelliKids Systems is an innovative technology that allows you to effectively manage your leads, which is all of those inquiries that you're getting, because most childcare centers struggle with what we call the post-inquiry flow. So a lot of companies are focusing on what would be lead acquisition, getting out there and trying to tell people that they're around and getting them to submit those contact forms or a Facebook inquiry or whatever it is. And there's not as much focus on what happens post-inquiry. And that's really the most important part. That is your sales process, so to speak. So we built a platform that was based on these 5 pillars of lead management. So we want to capture as many leads as we can, capture their information, want to be able to communicate effectively, speak about your program, tell them all the wonderful reasons why their children should be part of your educational curriculum. We want to be able to organize those leads. You should be able to take a look at your system in a glance and see who's toured, who's not, what are upcoming tours, where people are stuck in that overall pipeline. We want to engage simple communication tools so you can have a nice back and forth conversation effectively and have accountability around that conversation. And we want to be able to analyze what worked, what didn't, what can we do better. Our system, we believe, is best in class for that, and we've really helped quite a lot of centers around the country and even internationally really help them build their programs, maintain full enrollment. So I'll give you guys a second to read that. These are just some of my favorite feedback we've gotten from a couple clients. So now, IntelliKids Academy, and what is it and how did it come about? Just a little bit of intro here. When we began to create meaningful conversations with childcare professionals, as a software company started really talking to different operators across the country, we realized that there was this thirst for knowledge and the best practices on how to operate a successful center. So because we understand that, our success is intrinsically related to your guys' success, we decided to start producing this content completely free, just in order to help give a different point of view, maybe help some people become more successful. And so with that, the IKS Academy's mission was very simple to put together. It's a commitment to providing the tools and resources for you to achieve a level of excellency in every aspect of operating your early childhood educational program. And heading that up, so in each one of these webinars will be broken down into one of our space categories: staff management, physical environment, accounts, curriculum, and enrollment. Today kind of touches on physical environment and a bit of staff management, especially when you're considering that you yourselves are also part of that staff. Karen?
Oh, thanks, Jared. So All right, let's go ahead and get started. I have been in your guys' shoes. I've worked in childcare for a long time. So I'm just excited to be able to share a little bit about what is chaos in childcare. So let's talk about a director's typical day. Well, really there is no typical day, but for our purposes, let's talk about that we're walking into the building. So you're in your parking lot. You're just arriving at work for the day, and a parent stops you and asks about their child's lost jacket. So you reassure the mom that you'll have one of the teachers look for it, and that you'll give her a call to let her know that you found it. So you thank her, you continue on your way, you walk through the front door, and one of the teachers says to you, "Hey, do you know where the cotton balls are?" And you tell her, "Yeah, they should be in the supply closet. They came with the shipment that was there on Tuesday." And she says that she's looked for them, but she can't find them. So you go into the closet, you trip over the boxes that nobody put away from the shipment, and then you start looking through all the bins, and you finally find the cotton balls, and you give them to her. So you are on your way, you leave the closet, now you're on your way to your office. And on the way, the assistant director stops you and says that they've had a lot of problems in the morning with Johnny biting, and that they had to call Johnny's mom to come and get him. And meanwhile, of course, the whole time the buzzer is ringing. So I'm sure that you have all experienced days that are similar to this. It can be typical. And all of this stuff happens before you've even gotten to your office to take your purse off your shoulder and put it down. It's just the chaotic nature that is childcare. So are you overwhelmed? Yes, you may be. Most early childhood professionals feel overwhelmed with everything that's thrown at them. Parents, children, teachers, supervisors, and the public may be needing, summoning, or assisting that something be done. Interruptions are constant, and it can feel like there just aren't enough hours in a day. And COVID has added to that stress with more restrictions to follow, and you probably have less teachers or support to do that. So you might feel stressed because of all your commitments and your responsibilities. But there are two things that I know about childcare. And one is that early childhood professionals are resilient. And two is that they are very dedicated to what they do. There's a love for the job, for the people, and for the profession. But we struggle with managing time and getting organized. So some days, even your best laid plans are thrown out the window because of everything that's going on. So I think that the way to solve this is to really evaluate yourself first. So you need to think about what are your working habits? When do you feel the most organized? When do you feel the most accomplished? So what are your working habits? And once you understand how you work, you can decide to change that, or you can decide to go with it. So if you are the kind of person that you love those high pressure intensity all-nighters, that works for you, great. But I found that in childcare, communication and planning is essential to success. So most of the time in childcare, you're working with somebody else. Even if you're a single classroom teacher, you're probably required to prepare your lessons in advance or to follow a curriculum. So if you're the last minute deadline doer, you may not be able to enjoy that pressure so much.
I'm like that. I my whole life I've always kind of put myself in these pressure, last minute crisis situations because I thought that I worked better under it, and that it was kind of this hack for me to get the best performance out of myself. But the truth of the matter is, and this is always true in the childcare world, is that even if that is the way you are, there are events that happen that are out of your control, which take away that last minute time. I don't know how many times that, I've let something go too close to the deadline, and then I would have had enough time to take care of it, but something happened completely out of my control. And because I don't have that, even that little bit of time left anymore, I'm kind of up the creek and not able to accomplish what I need to accomplish. And that does put a lot of stress, especially as our tasks get more and more complex.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know for me, I just get crazy with those last minute pressures, and it's hard. So so you really do want to get to know yourself. So you want to think about what are your goals? What are the things that are important to you? So if you had all the time in the world, what would you want to accomplish? Say to yourself, hey, when I have time, I'm going to do what? Those are the things that are your goals. That's what you want to accomplish. But in addition to goals, we also need to think about what we value. So look at this list, and probably there's 2 or 3 that you can identify that really stand out to you. And those are the things that are your core values. They're what make you who you are, and they're essential when we're talking about getting to know yourself. So, this isn't about judging. Nobody's judging you. This is about you talking to yourself and, figuring out really what are your core values. So, we're talking about being organized. And so, in our example, let's align our core values with our goals. So if your value is that I'm productive and your goal is to get organized, those 2 things align. But sometimes our goals and our core values compete with each other. So being honest with yourself and really doing some self-evaluation, you can figure out that, maybe you're the kind of person, Jared, who is that enjoys working in that fast-paced, chaotic environment, and you re-energize yourself daily because you feel that you get more accomplished. So if that's the case, then probably getting organized is not your first goal. It's not that you can't do it, but it should not be your first goal. Maybe your first goal is really something about getting physically fit, so you got the energy and the stamina, and to be able to work in that kind of environment. So you really want your goals and your values to mesh. Now, not to say that, Jared, you can never be organized. Of course, you will be organized, but you have to realize to yourself, hey, you know what? I may have to work harder at it than somebody else who aligns together. So.
I feel like I put myself in the spotlight here. She's talking directly to me now. But no, I agree. You do have to work harder at it. And I will say that, there is, especially when you've lived your life doing things at the last minute, when you get to a point where you can kind of sit back and say, hey, you know what? I've actually done everything that I needed to do. So maybe I can, get a head start on other things. It does create, and I'm looking here at some of these things about being innovative, or being able to think a little bit, when you give yourself the space, you're able to actually start making improvements instead of just keeping afloat. I suppose it's the difference between, making progress and not trying to stand still, or having the water come over your head or swimming forward, that kind of thing.
Right, exactly. So let's, now we've prioritized. So now we've evaluated ourselves. Let's prioritize. So let's think about the ABC method to prioritize. Now, again, this isn't new, but it's something that is essential. So the most important tasks are tasks that are given the letter A. And the less important tasks are tasks that are letter B, and then the C are the least important tasks. So when you're thinking about A tasks, those are the must-do, the high priority, the very important, the critical items with close deadlines or high level of importance to them. And the B items are the should-dos, the medium priority, they're quite important over time, but they're not as critical as A items, but still important to spend time doing. And then the C items are things that are nice to do. They're low priority at this time. They have low consequences if they're left undone. So let's get back to our organization example. We've aligned our goals and our values. We've figured out who we are, but now it's time to set specific tasks. So we want to be organized. So we're going to need to think about what are some things that need to be done. What supplies will we need? Do we have them? Do we need to purchase them? Just, think about all the tasks that you have to do to get your office organized and write them down. They don't need to be in any specific order. Just brainstorm about, what you need in order to get organized. And then look at all those steps and figure out, is it a must do? Is it a should do? Or is it a nice to do? So I think that that's a great way. And we used this ABC method at our schools for years. As a matter of fact, we had a planner that we affectionately called Ben. And Ben was a place where we put important information, where we had action lists for that day. And our practice was to check Ben every morning and then develop an action plan for the day. The director, she was usually the one that did the to-do list. So she would rate the items on, what was most important, the A, B, and C. And then as the day was happening, we would, continue to check those things off. And then before the director left at the end of the day, there was always a time where she would meet with the office assistant or the assistant director, whoever was there in the evening time when she wasn't there. And they would spend about 10 minutes going over and checking what was done for the next day.
For those of you, we kind of skipped over this introduction method. So for those of you who are new to the ICAS Academy, my family founded a chain of childcare centers here in Las Vegas. We had 10 of them for 40 years. Karen's actually known me since, I think, right around when I was born. She worked for us and worked for my mom for over 30 years. So I'm very, I remember this concept as a child of Ben, and Ben was very important. I could not touch my mother's Ben. This was where she would prioritize and organize all of her tasks. And if I was like, oh, what's that? She would, don't touch that. It's very important. And every school had one. And all the directors, it was a very almost, shrine to organization, because that was, a very, very key part of our success is being organized in this chaotic environment. I did share the time management handout that you had put together. You want to just cover that real quick, because now if you see it through your control panel, you can download that.
Great. So yeah, it's just a to-do list where you just write down your things that you need to do for the day, and you're just going to rate them in the box, A, B, C. What's must do, what should do, what's nice to do. And again, this is where you can meet with somebody else and decide what's important. Now, one thing that we did was, you're not going to get everything done, and you don't want the list to stress you out. So, you are allowed to arrow things to the next day, but you have to be careful with that too, because if you're arrowing everything to the next day, then you're never really getting done. So we set up some rules, which were that we could only arrow three days. So if we arrowed something by the third day, we either had to delete it or do it. And that was our only option. And it really was a fantastic way to keep organized. So what you have is a simplified version of that to-do list. So let's think about time management. So time management is the process of organizing and planning how to divide your time between the specific tasks. So good time management enables you to work smarter, not harder, so that you can get more done in less time, even when time is tight and pressure is high in this chaotic environment that we are living in. So time management is the organization of the mind. It's remembering the things that you need to do and setting an action in place to do it. It's ability to use one's time effectively and productively. But it's individual per person. So what may be an issue for me is not an issue for you. Some people can organize their papers, but their email is, a mess. And I've seen this happen a lot with classroom teachers. They have beautiful classrooms that are wonderfully organized, but you go into their cabinet in their classroom, you open the cabinet up and papers and everything is falling all out, and you can barely function because of everything that's falling at you. So today's webinar, we really are going to talk a lot about the mental processes that help you develop and stay organized, and hopefully, help you gain that time that you need to work in this chaotic environment. So let's talk a little bit about merging effectiveness and efficiency. So effectiveness, are we putting our time into the places that it should be in order to be effective? Or are we just wasting time without purpose? This is about setting those priorities. So using that A, B, and C. Are we getting these things done? So efficiency. Are we accomplishing our goals in the most efficient way? Are we minimizing the waste of our resources, such as the physical materials, energy, our time, while we're accomplishing the desired result? So think about your own personal, time management issues. Everybody has them. What motivated you to, attend this webinar today? I believe that in everything that we do, that there's always room for improvement. So even when we make the smallest decision about our time, it can have a huge impact on how effective we are. So sometimes it doesn't take a tremendous amount of time to make a small change that will increase your productivity, what we're able to accomplish, and how well we're able to accomplish our goals. So I think that the benefits of time management are hugely important. Everyone wants to relieve their stress or be more effective, more results. We want to have career advancement. So when you're meeting your deadlines and you're doing your follow-up in a timely way and you're being efficient, you are somebody that can be promoted. People that are promoted are people that get things done in efficient ways. So hopefully that's who you want to be. We want to make those little changes. So we also want to have more free time for the fun. So we all know that when we're working 24/7, we're not working at our peak efficiency or effectiveness.
It's funny you say little changes, and I think this is such an effective way to look at anything, especially when you're trying to go to a place, in your career and your mind that feels as though it's far away from where you are now. The metaphor that I always use is, you've got a little rock hammer and you're just tapping on the outside of a dam. You don't know how thick the dam is. You don't know when you're going to hit water, but when you do, everything is going to spray out and you're going to reach where you're going to go. And all you have to do is just keep making small little motions, and eventually you're going to get through. And I think this is something that has helped me, again, as I've been called out as a disorganized person. This is something that has helped me in a lot of areas, because it's easy to make that little motion. It's easy to tap that little hammer. And when you do get through it, you look back to see how far you've gone, and you're shocked. You're surprised at how far you've gone. And sometimes it's the littlest thing, getting to work 15 minutes earlier to be able to organize your ABC chart, getting up 15 minutes earlier so you have a bit of more calm time before you start with your busy day. Sometimes it's the little things that beget the largest effects.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, I like to think about organization like an iceberg. So the tip of the iceberg is the physical environment. So it's what you can see. It's your organized classrooms, it's your organized school, it's your lobby, your offices, your closets. It's procedures that other people can see. Are they organized, or is it just, chaos? And below the water, which, is the biggest part of an iceberg, we all know. And those are your thoughts and your intentions. So clarifying your thoughts and energy and knowing what to focus on. And that helps keep everything afloat and everyone working harmoniously. So I would like to talk a little bit about the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And again, this came out in 1990, and 1990 was a long time ago. But what Covey did was he studied the time management skills of highly successful CEOs and other people, and he came up with these 7 things that are just important. And even though 1990 was such a long time ago, they provided for me such a platform and a base to grow continually that I've really developed them as my time management skills and the habits that are so ingrained in me that really I can't talk about organization or time management without mentioning them. I really think that even though it happened a long time ago, that they really are things that are still important. So the first one is habit number 1 is really to be proactive. And really, time management can be put into 2 categories. So let's say that we're waiting for a train. So what do we know? We can see the train in the distance. And if the train's running on time, we know the estimated time of when it's going to get there. So we pretty much know when it's going to arrive. And these are our deadlines. We know when our deadlines are happening. So most of the time, we know that we have to complete something by a certain time. But being proactive is about taking the time now and doing those things now so that when the train arrives, we're not doing the things at the last minute. So being proactive means that we're going to break the task down into smaller tasks. So we're not packing for the trip when the train is arriving. But there's another thing that can happen to your time. And so let's say, for example, that we're walking down the hallway in our school and suddenly a piano falls on our head. Okay. We didn't expect it. We didn't know it was coming. We didn't know it was going to happen. Suddenly, boom, there it is. It falls on your head. And
so, I would hope that you weren't expecting that to happen.
Right. So this is kind of like, like an illness. All of a sudden we get sick, or somebody that we care about gets sick, or there's some kind of a crisis event. Somebody quits. They walk out with no warning. Something like that, like a pandemic. So a pandemic hits. It shuts down the entire world. No one saw it coming. No one could anticipate how it would affect our business. And so we're blindsided by it. But you handle that in the same way that you handle the deadlines that you're prepared for. You are proactive. So if you have staff that quit unexpectedly, you have things that you have in place. You anticipate that there may be turnover. So you've taught people to do multiple jobs. The pandemic was great. We already knew how to wash hands and keep people from germs and things like that. So we put those things into place, and it wasn't as horrible as it could have been because we were proactive in that.
I think another way to say being proactive is to say be prepared. And I think these things go in hand, and you really hit a good point there with what happened with COVID. And we had done a couple of webinars back when that happened, and talking about how to manage your center under these new situations. And one thing that I said was, childcare centers, we were already veterans of this war when it started.
Right.
A lot of businesses had never thought about disinfecting surfaces, or
Right.
They never had any reason to. They didn't know, the proper procedures for even just disinfecting a table. And so, even going back to within our own history as a company, outbreaks, or so to speak, were pretty commonplace. You'd get one kid that would get sick, you'd have like a whole classroom sick. There was already a level of knowledge and preparation that allowed, with the exception of course, how devastating it was to the industry with increased restrictions, et cetera, there was still an ability for us to pivot quickly. And I think that in everything, you should apply the same thing. To be prepared is proactive, and that really is half the battle. I mean, that level of organization of preparedness sometimes, cuts down your response time dramatically.
Right, right. So let's talk about begin with the end in mind. So this is about understanding the end result. So it means that you have a clear vision of the direction and the destination and the result. How will it look? So what will it look like, when it's done? Another important thing is to think about putting first things first. And again, it's about setting those priorities. So what needs to happen first? A perfect example of this is the big rock, small rock principle. So if you're told to fill up a container completely full of rocks, you go out, you get big rocks, you put them in the container, and you're like, great, okay, I'm done. But really, you're not done because you haven't completely filled up the container. There's still spaces between those big rocks that you can put small rocks. So you put in the small rocks, and you are able to fill up that container. So you put first things first. What are the big rocks? What are your first priorities? And then what needs to happen, from there. So I think that it is just really important. And then, think about that win-win. So this comes into play when you're dealing with other people that just have different goals than you do. So
one of the things I just wanted to mention on beginning with the end in mind, and I like metaphors if you guys haven't been able to tell already, when you're looking up directions to somewhere, you know where you're going to get to. The only thing you don't know is how you're going to get there. And a lot of times when you put into your Maps app and you see, 3 or 4 different routes that you can take, and you take the knowledge that you have, whether it's you're going someplace in your own city and the traffic patterns and everything, or you're going somewhere else and you're just going to pick the path that looks the most efficient, and that's how you're going to get there. Sometimes when you're dealing with large tasks, it helps to think of it in the same terms. I know where I'm going to get. All I have to worry about is the series of lefts and right turns and how long I'm going straight here in order to get there. And it becomes a lot more manageable, because if you sit down and you write out the directions, you just have to follow
them. That's true. So, right. So when we're talking about win-win, one of the best examples that I think of this is really when we're talking about children. We don't want to get into power struggles with children because children always win. So how do we avoid that? Well, you give acceptable choices to the child. We can't go outside right now and play, but you can play with these Legos, you can build with these blocks. So we've avoided a struggle with a child getting upset. And I think that, it applies to adults. So as adults, think about, managers that are over you. What do they want? What do you want? So how can you accomplish what you want and what your manager needs, so you both can win-win? I think it's just an important concept. So habit number 5 is really seeking first to understand and then to be understood. It's about listening to what other people have to say, to hear their ideas, and try to understand what they're saying first before you say anything. Sometimes we're so it's so important for us to be heard that we haven't heard what somebody else is saying. So when you do this, when you seek to understand first, you build trust with other people, and they feel more respected and they're more willing to listen to your ideas. So it's a great habit to have. And then habit number 6 is to put it simply, what synergy means is that 2 heads are better than 1. So synergy is the habit of creating cooperation. It's teamwork, open-mindedness. It's the adventure of finding new solutions to old problems as a team. It's working together to discover jointly things that, by ourselves we wouldn't have figured out. 2 heads normally are better than 1. So really, think about how you can work with other people. And then, of course, habit number 7 is really sharpening the saw. It's what you're doing today. It's continuing education. And in my mind, there's really a couple ways, to do that. One is that you can really learn from the talents of other people, the coworkers, the people that you work with, people that you admire, even copying their style. Over the years, uh, your mom was a person who really had a style that could be copied and was something really to be admired. So I think that's important. And then of course just going to school, getting formal education, attending classes, going to webinars, developing your mind, just is an important thing. So let's talk about mistakes, though. There are things that that happen. Okay, we have the best intentions. We're really trying, but there are mistakes that we can make with our time. And the number one worst mistake is not spending your time on things that are important to you. So, do you ever feel like you're doing things for other people but not for yourself? So many times we do that because we don't know what our own priorities are. We get confused on what's important. We're unable to move past it. We just let the day happen instead of seizing the day. We're busy doing things all day, but at the end of the day, we say to ourselves, "Hey, what did I do today? What happened?" And when that happens, sometimes that's because you're so busy trying to please other people that you've forgotten to know yourself. So, let's go back to our beginning example here about our director that was walking into the building. She had the best intentions. She was, but what happens when she forgets to ask a teacher to find the child's jacket, or she never contacts the mom? She could potentially lose a client, and at the very least, she's going to upset a parent. So, so she's had everyone else's priorities, somewhat overwhelm her. So what she needs to do is that she needs to know herself, and she needs to know, what, if I don't write this down, I'm going to forget it. So when the teacher asks her for the cotton balls, she should say, "Hey, just a minute. I need to write this down," and go and write that down.
I think one of my big takeaways when I'm looking at this list is just letting the day happen. And I think that's a fascinating concept. This idea of seizing the day, and people say, well, what does that really mean? Well, let's think of it in this context. Does the day happen to you, or do you happen to your day? Are you taking charge of the events and passing that day through the most organized fashion that you can? And of course, there's always things that are going to come up in childcare more than anywhere else that you have to pivot and react to. But the control that you want to exert is over what happens in your own little kingdom, especially for those of you who are directors. The more you control in terms of having you happen to the day instead of vice versa, the more those pins begin to fall. The more organization gets easier because we take control over what's going on around us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, what we said earlier, just putting those little things into place. So even if you just said to your teacher, "Hey, just 1 second," you haven't upset her. You're just saying, "Hey, I work best if I write it down. I just need to write this down." And then, what you can do is you can, this now gives you an opportunity to maybe send the teacher, "Oh, you know what, can you go and look for the mom's jacket? I'll go in the closet and see if I can find those cotton balls for you." And, when she comes back, then you can exchange the jacket for the cotton balls. And you'll remember to call the mom because you wrote it down and you made it an A task for yourself. So, I think that just making those little changes sometimes is what we need to be able to do. Now, Covey has something that I think is really important, and that is a time management matrix. So this is about the urgent and important tasks. So, look at what is urgent and important. And where do you spend your most time? Are you spending your most time on things that are urgent and important? Those are the things that happen, and you just have to address them all the time. Or are you spending your time on not urgent but important tasks? So to feel accomplished, you really want to strive to spend your most time on things that are not urgent, not those fires, but they're important things. And that's really where you want to spend your most time. But sometimes we also get caught up in things that are urgent but not important. And of course, sometimes we get caught up in things that are not important at all, and we just are wasting our time. So again, the place to really be is to think about what is, how you can get to a place where you can spend time on not urgent, but important things. And this is, again, it's about prioritizing. It's about figuring out how you can prioritize. And a lot of times, the urgent and the important things are things that, you have to do. They come up. But think about where you can just find somebody else that can do that, or think about how you can soften that a little bit so that you can spend your time on not urgent but important things. It's the place that you're going to schedule your time. You're going to commit to that. So it's the place that you're going to make an appointment and you're going to keep it. So if you need to train your teachers on how to clean the storage closet, the supply closet, so you're not tripping over those boxes, then you're going to make an appointment with her and you're going to keep that. And that's an important. It's not urgent, but it's an important thing to do. It's helping you make that to-do list. So
absolutely. And yes, I have gotten into the habit of making appointments with myself for things that I want to do. I put it on my calendar. I kind of go by this. My wife makes fun of me because I'll put some really banal things on my calendar. And she's like, "Why does it have to be on my calendar?" And I said, "Because if it's on the calendar, I'm going to do it. If it's not, then I probably won't." So, sometimes it's funny, but it's effective and it pushes things forward for sure. I've shared the time management strategies handout as well, Karen, if you want to address it.
Perfect. So it is talking about these urgent and important tasks, and it talks a little bit about how you can manage or schedule your time so that you do spend your most important time on not urgent but important things. So thanks for doing that, Jared. So let's talk about our again, we're still talking about our worst mistakes. So another mistake that we make is underestimating the time that something actually takes to get done. So we think of ourselves as super people, and that we can underestimate, how we can do that. Some people, we value time. I really value time, and I don't want to waste it. So because of that, sometimes I underestimate how long things are going to take because I want it to get done quickly, or effectively, but I want it to get done quickly. So for me, one of the best things to do is I use the half rule, the 50% rule. So if you think that something is going to take you an hour, what you want to do is you want to add half of that time, so 30 minutes to that. So the task will probably take you about an hour and a half. And what that does is that it gets you to think about those interruptions. Those, that those things are going to happen in childcare. So it gets you to think about, okay, you know what, I need to schedule enough time so that I can deal with that if it happens and still stay on the task that I need to do. So it's just being realistic about your time. But there's sometimes, though, we talked about procrastination, and it certainly can be a detriment to us. So, when we procrastinate, we're not only aware that we're avoiding the task, but also that doing so is probably a bad idea, and yet we do it anyway. So, to beat procrastination, what you want to really do is the first thing in your day, you want to do the thing that makes you the most anxious, or or is the most difficult. You really want to do your hardest thing first, because there is something to be said about when you first come in and you're energized for the day, and the day hasn't beaten you down yet. You want to do those things that are either they're hard for you to do, or you just don't know, you're just anxious about them. And don't get caught up on the trivia, on the little things with that. So you break your tasks into those baby steps, and then of course like we said, you have those target dates. So even if you're calendaring your baby steps, so that's great. Those little things you put on the calendar, that's what's helping you accomplish the larger tasks. So, you're putting that task into perspective. And, what happens if this task is put off? Some tasks cannot be put off because they have to be done. And those are the ones that you're scheduling first. So who's affected by it? And can I live with that if I affect that person in a way that they can't get something else done? Those are things really to think about, and they're things hopefully that will help you beat procrastination. But sometimes it's not procrastination that is the problem. Sometimes it's perfectionism. In what I've really experienced in childcare is that this is a issue that a lot of childcare professionals have, is that we want it to be perfect. And so we believe that we can do it faster and they can do it better, and that we can just do it better than somebody else. And that may be true. But, I think that the saying of, give the man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach him to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime really applies here. So I believe, as you know, because we've done webinars on this, Jared, is to teach, to train, and to coach teachers into the perfectionism that you're looking for. When they know what you expect, then they're able to do that. So, think to yourself, ask yourself a couple of questions to avoid being perfect all the time. Being perfect really is not your goal. So, what will my results be? Will my results be better, substantially better, if I make more effort? Most of us, like, the first 80% of something comes really quickly. And it's that last 20% that we, end up spending huge amounts of time on. So, will I get paid more? Okay. That can help you figure out if you need to be perfect on this particular thing. So, and what am I sacrificing in my pursuit of doing something? Some things we just can't compromise on. And for me, people really fit into that category. We don't sacrifice or compromise on people, but think about really what you are sacrificing.
I think one of the things that's important to clarify with the will I get paid more is perfectionism can often be self-defeating, in the sense that the amount of time that goes into this small little increments of perfectionism at the end of a task are actually pushing that next task back and creating more of a problem in your day than just saying, well, I just want this to be right. So I think that it's important when you say, will I be paid more, as kind of a qualifying question, that it's not like, oh, well, I don't get a bonus for this, so it doesn't matter. It's more, am I going to accomplish more of my job by perfecting this one thing? Or am I going to get it to where it works and where it's I've accomplished this task to a good ability, and then I've gone on to the other ones. As you move forward in this organizational journey, a lot of times you create time at the end of the day to go back and do some quality control on the events that you handled earlier on. But what's most important, and as Karen said, is not arrowing as much stuff onto the next day, getting it done to an acceptable level. And then if you have time, you can always come back after.
Right. So, answering these questions really, it tells you when you don't need to be perfect. So, You know, worst mistake number 3 is not planning for interruptions. And we've kind of talked, you know, a lot about this, but there are always interruptions in childcare. We have to plan for them. There's, of course, the children, the parents, and the teachers come first, and relationship building is, you know, what does come first in childcare. But you want to, you know, anticipate that you're going to have interruptions, anticipate that you're going to have obstacles, and that, you know, you want to make sure that you are, again, I believe in teaching, so you want to make sure that if you do have these interruptions and these obstacles, that you've really taught your employees, your teachers, you know, whoever, that what is an interruption and what is an emergency. Of course, you want them to interrupt you if there is an emergency. And, you know, you want to define for them what exactly is an emergency and what is an interruption. So if they are interrupting you, then, you know, you do want to, you can redirect them. So if it's truly an interruption and not an emergency, you want to be direct and gentle. I'd love to talk to you now, but I really have a number 1 priority that I've got to finish. Can we talk later? And then, of course, do what we've talked about. Schedule a time and keep it. So on Thursday at 3 p.m., let's talk about that issue. And, you know, sometimes you have to be more physical in that. Even just getting up and standing, talking briefly, walking them to the door, it hasn't hurt anything, but it has gotten you hopefully done with the interruption, and now you can focus back on what you were doing. So teaching what is an interruption versus an emergency, I think, is just hugely important. And, you know, of course, one of a worst mistake that we can make is lack of delegation. So thinking that you're the only one that can do something. So every busy professional has more on their plate than they can possibly complete by themselves. So think about, you know, balls juggling in the air. If you have more than you can juggle, you're going to drop some of them. So would you rather drop them because you can't handle them all, or would you rather toss or delegate them to someone else who can do the job, who can adequately do that? So, you know, you want to think about, you know, am I the best person for the job? Do I have the most passion for this particular job? So, you know, even when you do something better than somebody else, if you don't enjoy it, it's probably not a thing for you. So we can't always do things that we don't enjoy, but try to delegate those tasks, because people want to help. There is somebody who can do it better than you and enjoys it, and they want to do it, but they were never asked. So that's what you've got to, you know, think about. So when delegating, you want to make sure that you ask for help. You're not demanding it. That's where it creates problems with people. You know, of course, invest in the training times. So telling them exactly what they need to know, and make sure that person knows the purpose and the work expectations. And you also want to know, you know, think about, okay, you know, this is the first time I've ever given a task to her. So she doesn't really know exactly what I expect. So, you know what, I'm going to need a little bit of closer supervision on this versus somebody that, you know, you've given tasks to quite a bit. They may not need as much as the close, you know, supervision. So I think that, you know, another mistake that we make when we're talking about time is that some people are just these people who say, yes, I'll do that. And, you know, again, think about yourself, evaluate yourself. Are you doing that because you think that will get you ahead? Are you, you know, why are you doing that? It may be your personality, and maybe you can do it. But if it's causing you issue, then you got to learn how to say no. So, you know, be aware if you're that automatic yes sayer. You know, buy time. And if the answer is no, say no gracefully. You don't have to give a reason. Sometimes giving a reason sounds like an excuse, and so you want to avoid giving it a reason. But you're going to base your decisions on the priorities, on the costs and the benefits of you're saying yes or no to that. And then, once you've said no, stick to your decision. Now, a lot of times, let's say that your boss has asked you to do something, and they need your help, and you of course don't want to say no to your boss, but what you can do is you can negotiate that a little bit. So you say, okay, yeah, help me prioritize what you need first. You've asked me to do this, and this, and so what is the most important thing that you need me to do right now? Because I've got a lot on my plate, plus 3 people called in sick today. So, you really want your boss to help you prioritize and manage your time efficiently. They may not be aware of everything that is, going on in your day. So, clutter. We all have clutter, and clutter is anything that you own, possess, or do that doesn't enhance your life on a regular basis. So to make good decisions, you need to be clear about your priorities. And what are things that cause things to pile up? It's fear. It's fear of never finding it. It's fear of forgetting to follow up. And so you might think, hey, out of sight, out of mind. 5 types of information that really, that come in, and they can distract you. So if you're that type of person, figure out what you're going to do with that. So, paper, are you the kind of person that paper distracts you and you end up piling up? Are emails just piling up and they're distracting you? Are texts, distracting you all the time? Is it just verbally from other people, or is it the thoughts in your own head? And again, find those little things that are going to make that difference. If it's just a matter of paper, think about what you can do. So, follow the decision funnel. So, can I discard this? Can I delete this? Do I need it right now? Can I defer taking action until another time? Or do I just choose to file this for future reference? So, even if it's electronic information, it basically is the same thing. You want to be making those decisions. You want to, again, be proactive, make decisions fast, take those actions, touch it once and decide. I don't know what to do with it is not an option. When you're indecisive, it really is a decision that you're making to be indecisive. So, think like a computer. So discard it means delete it. Delegate it means forward it. Do means reply. Defer is in your inbox. File, move to file. If you think like that, you've got it, under control. So some people have trouble throwing things away. And again, it's counterproductive to organizing things that you don't need in the first place if you keep things that should have been thrown away. So think about, what is the worst thing that could happen if I threw this thing away? If I threw it away now and discovered I needed it later, could I replace it? By the time I need this, would it be obsolete? If my office or home burnt down, would I miss it enough that I would actively replace it? Now, there are things that you are going to, have to keep. And does it have tax or legal implications? Of course, you want to keep those things. But how will it enhance my life to keep it? So think about organization. Again, we talked about the tip of the iceberg. Is the first thing that you want to do once you've clarified your mind and you've really thought about how you are, what your goals are, and little things that you can do to organize your time. Now you've gained some time. So hopefully now you're going to take that time and you're going to physically organize the things around you. And I just want to give you 3 quick tips for organizing your space. I know we've gotten a lot of tips, a lot of tips today, but there's 3 simple things. Okay, so put away or get rid of unnecessary items. Find the right place for the things that you need regularly. And of course, don't procrastinate. So we've really talked about those kinds of things. Putting away the unnecessary items is easier said than done. But if you begin with the end in mind, you're going to be able to visualize a clean, organized space with only the things that you need in it. So again, these Franklin Covey or Stephen Covey principles are so ingrained in me that it's just part of what you're doing. You're putting away those things because in my mind, I see it clean. I see it organized. I see the way I want it to be. And so then, thinking about your space. So, you really do need to think about your space. There are things in your space physically that you cannot change. So if you're organizing a classroom, you want to think about how much shelf space there is. What areas do you have available to the children? How much storage is in that room? So, you can't change where the windows are, the shape of the windows, where the doors are, where the bathroom is. Those things you cannot change. So you've got to think about those when you are, thinking about and developing your plan. And of course, remembering our half rule. So if you've got your plan in place and you're going to start organizing, now you want to think about how long it's going to take you to do that. So again, if you think it's going to take an hour, it's going to take an hour and a half, especially when you actually get to the processes of cleaning up that cluttery space. So the last thing is put things where they need to be.
Just a quick announcement. We are finishing up, guys. I know some people do have time constraints, so I went ahead and shared the certificate. Feel free to download that. We have a few slides left, so we'll love if you stay with us, and we're always happy to answer any questions as soon as we finish. Go ahead, Karen.
Thanks, Jared. So yeah, if what you need to do is to find a place for the things that you need. So if you'll be using it within a week, then find a home for it. Put away, get rid of those things that you don't need. If you won't be using it within a week, then take it out of your space. And of course, in childcare, setting up those storage organization systems is hugely important. So, using those well-labeled containers to create storage, something that the children who can't read can see a photo of the item, or the actual item is out on the outside of the container. Again, this labeling thing is another one of my huge things, and I'd love to do a webinar on that. But matching colors is easy for children to do. So you want to think about that in your organization. And of course, we've talked a lot about procrastination and the snowball effect that it has. But it's a little things that you put off, and they pile and they pile and they pile, and they roll and they roll and they roll, and they get to be a big thing. So don't procrastinate. We've talked about what we need to do in our mind and get our mind focused so that we're not overwhelmed and paralyzed by this procrastination. So focusing on the desired result, it helps you to get over that fear of inaction. Tune your head into this positive language. I want to, I can, I enjoy, instead of the negative talk that sometimes fills up your head. And of course, letting go of perfection. Many things just aren't worth doing perfectly, but you can start and do your best. So, but getting organized does take maintenance. And, you've really got to think about how you're going to maintain things. You open the drawer and you just organize that drawer, and you look, and the pencils and everything is just, an absolute mess. And, why is that? Because you haven't developed a plan for maintenance. What are you going to do daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually to keep things organized? This photo shows yarn, which is wonderfully organized. But can you imagine the mess that's going to be if somebody takes that out and gets it untangled, and how and the maintenance that's going to take? It also may you may have to think about maintenance when you're thinking about the organization. Can it be maintained? Can the children put it away by themselves? If not, it's probably not worth doing. Because you want the children to learn that organization and to be able to put it away by themselves. So, let's just recap super quickly. The essential habits on how to get better organized is that we want to write things down. We want to make schedules and deadlines. Again, don't procrastinate. Give everything a home. Declutter regularly. Do that maintenance. Keep only what you need. And work hard. So put in a little effort. Actually, you want to put in a lot of effort. So, early we learned that some people just have to put in more effort than other people to do that. And when you do that, the satisfaction that you really get from organizing something sometimes is greater than the person who it just came so easily for. So, sometimes it is hard work, and sometimes we can't avoid that. Sometimes we have to go and put in hard work. I have just, a couple quotes. So really organized people are not born organized. They have to cultivate healthy habits, which then help them to stay organized. So even if you think you are a very disorganized person, you can learn to be organized. From planning things, jotting things down, to ditching the unnecessary, and organizing things to that matter, you will become an organized person as long as you are willing to learn and to practice. And then finally, for me, I want you to always remember the crucial difference between who you are and what you achieve. There's so much more to your worth than your accomplishments. Your identity, your family, your passions, your experiences, your travel, your friends, your politics, your taste, your knowledge, your challenges that you've overcome are most importantly, how you treat other people. So, all right, well, Jared,
I think that's wonderful, and I could not, especially with this last slide, I could not agree more. We are more than the sum of our parts, I think, and especially the sum of our careers, or the sum of our bad days. And it's really important that, some of these applications are incredibly helpful in the childcare setting, but really they're helpful throughout with everything you do. And the good thing about reorganizing your mind and teaching yourself a different way of thinking is once you crack through that wall, you can't ever go back. Everything gets easier, because you file things in your mind and you approach the world in a very different way. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Karen, for putting this together. I love it when we do these, and I get to sit back and learn a few things as well. So this was really awesome. Again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put some questions in the chat. If not, please continue to drop your emails through a private chat. We're going to make sure that the next webinar we do is going to have the slides available for download. Please don't also, if you haven't already, please download those handouts. They're very useful, as well as your certificate. We'll sit here for a couple more minutes to make sure everyone gets everything and has a chance to message in. Other than that, you guys have a fantastically wonderful and organized, effective day.